I'm Casey, and I'm a creature of habit. Every day at 1 p.m., I go to Subco and get the same sandwich. 6-inch cheddar roll with provolone, meatballs, marinara sauce, and sometimes, if I'm feeling crazy, I'll get some Parmesan on top. I'm Casey, and I'm a planner. I'm the person that makes a to-do list, and on the top of that to-do list is make a to-do list, just so I can check something off. I'm Casey, and I like to be in control. If an event is not on my planner, then the chances of me partaking in it are pretty slim. So you can imagine my feelings of intense fear and anxiety when my cousin decided that he would literally carry me onto a roller coaster. My family had spent the day at an amusement park, and I had spent my time there sitting on all of the benches with my grandmother, watching my cousins go on all of the rides. But my cousin decided that I would be going on the next ride, whether I wanted to or not. Once I was in line, every instinct in my body was telling me to abort the mission. I was aware of all 3 possible exits. There was a flight of stairs to my right, there was a door to my left, and then there was the exit that I was carried into. But just as I was getting ready to bolt, Damien, my cousin, looked at me, and he said 3 words that still echo in my ears. He said, "Live a little." Everyone has, at one point in their life, struggled with routine, getting stuck in the same pattern, and even becoming a little bit predictable at times. We all desire the comfort that comes with knowing what our day and even our life is going to hold, but I feel like we more deeply crave the excitement that comes with spontaneous adventures. My information comes from my personal experience, peabody.edu, and then articles written by Dr. Leon Seltzer on Psychology Today. Today I'm going to be talking about spontaneity and how it positively affects brain activity, creativity, and our overall mood. So there was a study done in 2003 by Charles Lim, and he's a scientist as well as a musician. And he wanted to discover what goes on in the brain when a musician plays a memorized piece of music, and then what happens when that same musician plays an improvised piece of music. So to do this, Lim created an experiment where he would analyze a few volunteers' brains as they played jazz music under an MRI machine. So this task seems nearly impossible, considering the fact that, 1, it's a tiny tube, so it'd be hard to fit any instrument in that. And then 2, you're not allowed any electronic or magnetic objects inside of an MRI machine. To solve these problems, Lim got the help from a California engineer, and he actually created a miniature non-magnetic keyboard, and he then set up different mirrors around the musician, so he was able to look at the reflections and see the different keys he was playing. The volunteers were asked to perform a memorized piece of music, and they had a pre-recorded jazz quartet playing in the background. And then they were asked to play an improvised piece of music with that same quartet playing. After analyzing the brain activity of the volunteers, Lim found that during improvisation and spontaneity, the brain shut off areas linked to self-monitoring, and then it turned on areas linked to self-expression. The study also showed that the brain regions involved with all of the senses lit up during improvisation. So this just indicates a heightened state of awareness, meaning the performers were able to better taste, better smell, and feel their surroundings. In a sense, they were able to, feel more alive and in the moment. This study leads to the understanding of creativity and its correlation to the act of being spontaneous. So psychologist Abraham Maslow once described creative people as all there, totally immersed, fascinated, and absorbed in the present, in the current situation, in the here now, with the matter in hand. So there's a strong connection between creativity and spontaneity, and it's actually pretty difficult to have one of those without the other. I think a good example of this can be seen in this Monet painting. So obviously there was some planning on Monet's part. She decided ahead of time, she'd be doing a landscape with a flower garden and trees in the background. But for her to figure out, every shade of every color of the flower, that would be completely insane. So obviously, at one point, she had to step back and decide that she had to trust herself enough to paint on a whim and be spontaneous. Another example of spontaneity is found in novels. Many authors will set a game plan for the plot. They will plan the actions of the characters and even details of the ending. But as they begin to write their book, they slowly tweak the plot because they become, more deeply invested in the lives of their characters. And I think sometimes the lives of the characters begin to have just as much of a say in the conflict and the conclusion as the author does. Spontaneity is also seen in movies. The director may have an overall vision for his movie, but then an actor may read the screenplay and interpret that scene quite differently. So sometimes I think the most remembered and loved scenes were the ones that were improvised by the actors. So I think a perfect example of this was in The Dark Knight. This was the scene where Chris Nolan, the director of this movie, he had intended for the Joker to hop onto a bus and drive off, and then in the background, this hospital would be exploding. But Heath Ledger, the actor for the Joker, decided that he needed to add a little bit of comic relief. So he actually played around with the detonator as he was walking out of the hospital, and it just added, I think, much needed comic relief to this movie. And it actually ended up being one of the more loved and remembered scenes. So as seen from these examples, creativity is easily triggered by the act of being spontaneous. There's also a strong correlation between spontaneity and our general mood. I think when we hold tightly to our plans, we often set very high standards that can even determine our happiness. We have a vision and we reach to obtain that vision, but oftentimes in the process of goal reaching, we end up being disappointed with that outcome. I know for me, I will make this elaborate to-do list, and I'll actually spend more time making a to-do list of things that I need to do rather than actually, doing them. And at the end of the day, when I realize I only checked off 6 of the 10 things on my to-do list, I become super discouraged. Spontaneity can never disappoint because it's never planned ahead of time. There are no expectations that will leave you hanging and no pros and cons list to hold you back. There's only freedom to let what happens happen. So I want you guys real quick to think back to the last moment you felt pure joy and excitement. The chances are this wasn't a day-to-day activity. It was probably something that fell together at the last minute and was probably unplanned. Personally, I don't remember the last time sticking to my schedule led to enormous fun. In my personal experience, the moments I decided to step out of my comfort bubble are the moments that I experienced the most joy. So today we looked at spontaneity and how it positively affects brain activity, creativity, and our overall mood. Jane Austen once said, "Why not seize the pleasure at once? How often is happiness destroyed by preparation, foolish preparation?" So I urge you guys not to deny yourself the freedom that comes with spontaneity. Being spontaneous is so much more than getting in line for a roller coaster. It could mean finding a different coffee place to do homework, getting a new haircut, or even ordering a different sandwich at Subco. So as my cousin Damien once told me, live a little.
Alright, so for most of us, this is what our Christmas looks like. It's Christmas movies, time with family, decorations, and some of our favorite parts, gift opening. But for millions of children around the world, like these children, they've never received a gift or experienced the joy of Christmas. But an organization called Operation Christmas Child has made it possible for people like you and me to give these children the joy of Christmas by simply packing a shoebox. So today I will use information from Operation Christmas Child's website, my own personal experience packing a shoebox for Operation Christmas Child, and a video from their YouTube page to show you why packing a shoebox for Operation Christmas Child is a worthwhile experience. So Operation Christmas Child is the Christmas outreach program of Samaritan's Purse, and Samaritan's Purse is an international relief program that was started in 1970, and their main theme is based off of Luke chapter 10 with the story of the Good Samaritan, and it's just to help people in need. So they have activities like orphanages, they construct like schools and churches, they do disaster response like for the hurricane in Haiti, they have feeding programs, health programs, sanitation, pretty much you name it, they have it. But one of their most popular programs is Operation Christmas Child. So Operation Christmas Child was started in 1993, and what it is that people in more developed countries like the United States, Australia, Finland, Germany, Japan, New Zealand, they pack boxes, just shoe boxes with small gifts for children around the world. And these boxes go to over 150 countries in South America, Africa, Asia. They're usually poorer third world countries. But since 1993, Operation Christmas Child has delivered over 135 million boxes. So now that you know more about what Operation Christmas Child is, let's talk about how to pack a shoebox. So you just start with an average size shoebox that any of your tennis shoes, sneakers, whatever would come in. And then you would go on the Operation Christmas Child website and print off a label that looks like this. And you would cut it in half and choose if you want to pack for a boy or a girl. And then you would pick the age range, 2 to 4, 5 to 9, or 10 to 14. And then you go pack it with gifts that are appropriate to that age. That's kind of what it would look like. My family and I, it's kind of a family event. We usually just go to like Dollar General to fill it with gifts. And these gifts can include like non-liquid hygiene items, because liquid would spill in the box during travel. So that can include a toothbrush, a comb, a washcloth, bar soap, toys like toy cars, jump ropes, dolls, stuffed animals. You just have to make sure it's nothing that alludes to violence, because a lot of these countries are war-ridden countries. You can include school supplies like pencils, markers, notebooks, accessories like shirts, socks, headbands, and then they encourage you to write a personal note. Most of the children that receive these don't speak English, but there'll be translators who can translate your note for them. So now that you know how to pack a shoebox, let me show you why it is so beneficial. So here, here's a video of children opening these boxes. So as you can see, the reaction when they open their boxes is pretty much pure joy. But the cool thing about these boxes is that they're brought in on big trucks, and they have like distribution parties for them, but the boxes are handed out entirely randomly. They're not like addressed to a specific child. But God uses these boxes to give the child specific needs that they have beforehand. So for example, a girl named Maria in Honduras, she was 12 years old and living in extreme poverty with her father and her 4 siblings. Her mother had committed suicide due to the extreme poverty conditions. So her dad had to take on the role of both mom and dad and work a lot of hours. And so the one thing that Maria wanted was a doll, but her dad he couldn't afford it because they were stretched so thin. But when she opened her box from Operation Christmas Child, it had a doll in it, along with a book called The Greatest Gift, which is what Operation Christmas Child, they translate it into the languages of all 150 countries, and it's just a short synopsis of the gospel. So these gifts are more than just a temporary Christmas gift, but it's an eternal gift. So after Maria opened her box, she immediately wanted to share her gift with her teachers and her friends, and she didn't just talk about the doll, but she talked about the gift of Jesus that she had received. And another story is a boy named Lawrence in Ghana. He was sent home from school multiple times because he was barefoot because he didn't have shoes. But at the shoebox distribution, he opened his box and it had a pair of sneakers and socks that were in his exact size, along with school supplies so that he was able to resume going to school. So today I've told you about Samaritan's Purse and what Operation Christmas Child is. I've shown you how to pack a shoebox, but more importantly, I've shown you the pure joy of a child opening a shoebox and the way that God provides through these shoeboxes. So this Christmas season, during the busyness of the American Christmas, take a break from family activities and decorations and parties and your own gift opening and pack a shoebox for a child across the world. Put a note in it with your own return address, and who knows, you could get a letter from a child telling you that you changed their life.
An ode to aging. When I'm stooped over for stretches of time, it's not that I'm just picking flowers, but rather the effort of straightening my back just keeps me bent over for hours. I can no longer see the clock on the wall, the calendar is blurry to me. Now time is of not any essence except when I'm looking for places to pee. My memory has flown with the passage of time. I recall nothing of value these days, but old memories are lodged in my mind. If it's not of importance, it stays. My arms and my legs are creaky and sore, and some things don't work at all. My battle with gravity is almost a tie, and a very strong wind I would fall. I used to be active in public affairs, but now I've narrowed my scope. A successful trip to the bathroom each day is all that I dare to hope. One thing in nature I can't understand, it seems as crazy as heck, how the hair that once grew on the top of my head now grows on the back of my neck. Another condition that comes on with age, for which understanding is hard. The rippling muscles that once graced my frame are now just layers of lard. Now seniors wear dentures so they can look young, and also in order to chew. It sure is a mystery why the teeth go away when they really are younger than you. Now I'm not saying that aging is bad. The alternative is not good for sure. So I'll keep on smiling and shuffling along, hoping science will soon find a cure. Okay, so this is a poem my grandpa wrote, and he was very proud of it. And this is him. It was the best way to describe his just witty, sarcastic, just fun-loving personality. Whether it be a grandparent or great-grandparent, most of us have had some amazing connection through a common interest, in my case, a love for poetry, an insightful moment, conversation, funny stories, or even just a big warm hug from them in our lifetime. My credibility comes from my story and experiences, as well as a couple blogs about the roles of grandparents in a family and raisingchildren.net. So today I'm going to talk to you about why we should be spending as much quality time possible with the elderly generation, by first talking about their roles in our lives, my personal experiences, and how we can benefit from learning about their generation. So, as far as grandparents go, they have a lot of roles in our lives. One big role is they help raise us. A lot of us were raised by our grandparents at a young age. They watched us, they fed us, they took us places, and they took care of us. Another big thing is they educate us. They tell us personal stories. They talk about major events that took place in their lifetime that they're very passionate about. And they help us find pieces of our identity, whether that being sharing interests or being a mentor, a shoulder to cry on, or even a best friend. They've also been through a lot of hardships. Many were war veterans. A lot of them were children during the Great Depression, and they have this rough, tough personality that comes out with a lot of strong opinions about things they've been through. Now that you better understand some roles of grandparents in a family setting, I'm going to talk to you now about my own personal experiences. So as far as my family goes, I was always closer to my mom's parents. We just connected a lot better, and they were definitely my best friends. Unfortunately, they both passed away. My grandpa passed away about 5 years ago, and my grandma just passed away in July. But like I read his poem earlier, my grandpa had this love for reading and writing poetry. And he would read me poetry all the time, write me little notes before sporting events, and he loved writing it. And I'm going to share a poem. This is a poem I wrote. I wrote this about 2 days after my grandma passed away, and it's called My Beautiful Angel. The moment I widened my tiny green eyes, I knew in my heart the Lord had been wise to send me an angel to walk by my side when times seemed too tough and the tide seemed too high. An elegant, breathtaking, beautiful soul who found my missing pieces and again made me whole. Through stubbornness, worry, lack of purpose, and doubt, my angel is someone I cannot live without. She has been through a pain that still shakes me today, and I now know the reason why my angel can't stay. She is still here in spirit, this much is true, but I also can see she wants eternity with you. So I hope and I pray that I one day can be the beautiful angel that you are to me. And obviously the two poems that I read are very different in what they're talking about, but I always wondered where I got my rhyme from, and looking back at these poems, after my grandpa passed, was really eye-opening to me because we do share that quality, and it was really cool to see. So, this is my grandma. I love her so much. She just had this love for interaction, and she was definitely the definition of a social butterfly. She could talk your ear off. We went on many lunch dates. I drove her to a ladies group a lot. I drove her to get her hair cut. I drove her a lot of places towards the end of her life. She struggled with dementia, and it was getting progressively worse, especially the last few years of her life. And she was also living with us for the last about year of her life. So that had a huge impact on my life because I learned a lot about patience, and I learned a lot about having a servant's heart. And because she liked to talk so much, I would have to repeat myself a lot. So definitely the patience thing was a difficult thing for my mom and me, but we got through it. Now I'm going to give you some things to think about regarding how this older generation can teach us about ourselves, the importance of their presence in our lives, and steps you can take to have strong relationships with this generation. So we need to honor the elderly, and in order to do that, we need to treat them with respect, for and foremost. This is going to help us be more respectful to others in different situations, and we need to be there for them through sickness as well, because we need to be there through either prayer, presence, or just keep them in our thoughts, because they were there for us when we were younger, so we need to be there for them. They also teach us, like I said, to have a servant's heart full of patience, love, and compassion. We also need to look at things through God's perspective. I have a few verses here. Titus 1:9 says, "Elders are to teach sound doctrine to others." Proverbs 16:31, "Gray hair is a crown of glory. It is gained by living a godly life." And Job 12:12, "With the ancient is wisdom, and in length of days understanding." So all these verses talk about how elders do have more experience. They've been around longer. They know what they're talking about in a lot of situations, and we can learn a lot from them. And if the Bible is talking about it, we need to live by it. So we need to treat these elders with respect. We need to be there for them through sickness and hardship. And we need to visit them as often as possible and understand things through the eyes of Scripture. So today I've talked about the elderly generation, explaining their roles in a family setting, my own personal experiences, specifically with my grandparents, and the importance of them in our daily lives, with advised steps to take in growing closer to them. In conclusion, everyone has their own story of how they came to be. If we think hard, a lot of us have been impacted by the presence of our grandparents or even great-grandparents. If that is not the case, I challenge everyone to cherish the moments we have with them. We can learn so much from them, and they could be taken away from us in the blink of an eye. Do not miss any opportunities to spend quality time with the elderly generation.
Fact. According to a recent study by the National Association of Colleges and Employers, the teaching profession has an average national starting salary of $30,377. Comparatively speaking, other college graduates who enter fields requiring similar training and responsibilities start at salaries in the low 40,000s. Myth. The school day is actually only 6 or 7 hours, so it is only fair that teachers make less than full-time professionals. Fact. Other professionals hardly have the monopoly on the long workday, and many studies conclude that teachers work as long or longer than the typical 40-hour work week. Myth. Teachers have summers off. Fact. Students have summers off. Teachers spend their summers working second jobs, teaching summer school, and taking classes to advance their resumes. Myth. Due to tenure, teachers can never be fired no matter how bad they are. Fact. Tenure does not mean job for life, as many people believe. It means just cause for discipline and termination be the reason incompetence or extreme misconduct. other professions, teachers get automatic raises regardless of how well they perform their work. Fact. Name a profession in which people earn less each year. Through collective bargaining or state legislation, most teachers are placed on a salary schedule with pay steps or increments for seniority on the job and added professional development. All of you have been influenced in one way or another by a teacher, but not everyone understands the time and effort that goes into their careers. Much of my information comes from the National Education Association, two popular blogs titled Take Part and Exploring Your Mind, and the U.S. Department of Education. Today I will be sharing my reasoning behind why I believe teachers should receive a higher salary. These reasons include the amount of time teachers spend outside of their contracted hours, how teachers set down the building blocks of a fundamental lifestyle, and ultimately how they prepare students to be future employees. The first reason I believe teachers should receive a higher salary is because of the hours they put in outside of their actual school hours. According to the National Education Association, many studies show that teachers work as long or longer than the typical 40-hour work week. Not everything teachers do is accomplished in the classroom. Attending conferences, grading papers, preparing lessons, and adjusting to teach to the learning styles of each individual student is very time-consuming. Others may argue that teachers get summers off. This is not true due to the fact that many teachers work second jobs throughout the summers, teach summer school, or take classes to advance their careers. According to the U.S. News, 1 in 10 teachers rely on a second job throughout the summer months. Now that we have covered the amount of time teachers really put into their jobs, let's talk more about how teachers set the building blocks of a fundamental lifestyle. A fundamental lifestyle can be defined as the foundation of how one lives. Not only does an educator focus on various subjects such as math, reading, writing, history, and science, he or she can also transmit values, motivation, and a desire to learn in their students. American politician and educational reformer Horace Mann once said, "A teacher who is attempting to teach without inspiring a pupil to learn is hammering on cold iron." One source shows that a study from 2012 done by 2 Colombian economists studying at Harvard tracked 2.5 million students from the same urban school district over 20 years from 4th grade to adulthood. The results showed that a good teacher can influence a student's chances to attend college, earn more money, and even avoid teen pregnancy. This study is direct proof that teachers can not only provide students with an education, but can also inspire them and be a role model. A teacher with character demonstrates that integrity is a prized possession. Teachers with character serve as role models for telling the truth, respecting others, accepting and fulfilling responsibilities, playing fair, earning and returning trust, and living a moral life. That's a quote from Angela Lumpkin, one of the authors of the blogs I mentioned earlier. According to Merriam-Webster, character is defined as the way someone thinks, feels, and behaves, someone's personality, a set of qualities that are shared by many people in a group, country, etc., a set of qualities that make a place or thing different from other places or things. As I checked the U.S. Department of Education website, I came across at least 15 resources for teachers to incorporate in their classroom on how to teach their students character. This proves how vital this part of teaching is. We've completed talking about how teachers set the building blocks of a fundamental lifestyle, so let's move on to something else. Next, we will cover how teachers prepare their students to be future employees. If you really think about it, the lessons children learn in school go far beyond the classroom. They are easily translated into everyday life, especially at future jobs. These lessons include responsibility, trustworthiness, honesty, time management skills, resiliency, adaptability, persistence, integrity, empathy, ethics, respect, listening skills, how to work with others. Do you see where I'm going with this? The list goes on and on. Day in and day out, teachers are implementing these life skills into their classrooms. Half of the time, they don't even know they're doing it. A student spends an average of 7.5 hours in school every day. That's 37.5 hours a week, 150 hours a month, and about 1,350 hours each school year. The classroom is a place where these life skills have to be taught. And teachers are willingly preparing our future doctors, lawyers, and veterinarians, firefighters, construction men and women, all while being underappreciated, undervalued, and underpaid. Today, we have covered 3 major reasons teachers should be paid a higher salary. These reasons include, but are certainly not limited to, the amount of time they spend outside the classroom, the way teachers set down the way students will live the rest of their lives, and ultimately preparing students to be future leaders and employees. Today, I would like to challenge you to keep an open mind to the importance of teaching. If you have the opportunity to vote for a candidate in favor of higher teacher salaries, do so. Think about your future children and what kind of teacher you want them to be led by. Are they only worth the salary they're receiving? I will leave you with this quote from an Australian physician and author, Helen Caldicott. Teachers, I believe, are the most responsible and important members of society because their professional efforts affect the fate of the earth.
We all have those moments. Those moments where everything just feels perfect. Those moments where the world seems to stand still. Those moments where everything falls perfectly together. My moment started when the buzzer sounded. My moments happened as I leapt through the air into the water below. My moments slowed as I entered the water when everything seemed virtually still. My moments became exhilarating as I broke the water, broke the surface, and heard the crowd cheering, and as I saw my teammates at the other end of the pool. I miss those moments. We all have passions and moments that we feel we belong in, so we should think of bringing those opportunities for others here at Grace. I started competitive swimming when I was 9 years old, and I stopped my senior year. Majority of my speech comes from my personal experience and my passion for the sport. I've also looked at a few college websites that have recently started swim teams and U.S. Swimming's website. First of all, I'm going to explain how Grace is the perfect location for a swim team. Then I'm going to explain some steps that Grace could possibly take to start a swim team. And finally, I'm going to go over why this is so important to me and why starting a swim team at Grace would be important for the whole campus. Grace has literally one of the best setups and destination for a swim team. Think about the location. We're in Warsaw, City of the Lakes. We have 4 lakes around us, Hidden Lake, Center Lake, Winona Lake, Pike Lake. We also have the surrounding high schools. Warsaw has an amazing swim program, even though I don't want to admit that because I came from Valley. But they really do have an amazing swim program. We have the Y here. They have their Y club, and there's some amazing swimmers that go through that club. The people. I know quite a few people from the Winona Lake area that live here that actually went through the Olympic trials, that have children that swim around the area. Now that you have an understanding on why the area is perfect for a swim team, I'm going to explain some of the steps that could be taken or have already been taken by similar teams. Other colleges similar to Grace have started their own swim teams. There are 29 NAIA programs that sponsor women's swimming and diving. Grace is part of the NAIA, or National Association of Intercollegiate Athletics. Some of these schools we actually already play against. Anderson University just started their swim team, which is both men's and women's swimming. And Indiana Wesleyan University just started their women's swim team. And amazingly, Indiana Wesleyan University is the first in the Crossroads League, which Grace is a part of, to actually start a swim team. So they're kind of starting it out for us, hopefully. And colleges that started their own swim team really utilize their resources. According to U.S. Swimming, the cost of renting the pool is around $504,000, and then while building would be somewhere around $5 million. So the big difference in that, they said, is the $5 million would be a little bit more harder to pay off the debt, but you do have your own swim pool, you do have your own swim times when you can practice, but the 504,000 is a little more easier to pay off, either with having like camps or paying for certain things, and you only have to like figure out times with whoever you're renting from. And like I said, we do have this wonderful new Y that we have that I've seen multiple, like Manchester University uses the Peabody Aquatic and Fitness Center, so they actually do rent that center for their swim team, their college swim team, their high school swim team, and they also have their own little Y swim team. And Anderson and IWU already have pre-existing pools to use. They just some reason have never thought, okay, college swim team, let's start it. And they both understood that there was a want for swim teams. They started their swim teams, and they said that they wanted to create opportunities for the swimmers there to get to swim. Now that I've explained how a swim team could be very plausible, I want to explain why a swim team here at Grace is so important to me, and why it should be important for others too. So, having a swim team at Grace is all about having the actual opportunity to swim. Okay, so athletes, I'm going to put you on the spot. How many of you would actually be here at Grace if Grace did not have your sport? Raise your hand, please. None of you? Okay. So, imagine how many swimmers didn't even look at Grace because they did not have a swim program. One of the things that I noticed on IWU's little article that they had about starting their new swim team is the athletic director, based on his research for starting the swim team, didn't realize how big of a swim state Indiana is. He basically said, yeah, let's go for it because it's such a swim state. On a little research study, Indianapolis is number 9 on the top 50 swim cities. Number 9. Carmel, which is in Indianapolis, has won the national swim team competition 29 years in a row. It's kind of amazing, right? Wawasee swim team, which is Warsaw's competitor, has had 2 or 3 swimmers that have competed in the Olympic trials. We have amazing potential here in Indiana for a swim team. And imagine if Grace instituted and put in a swim team, how many swimmers there would be. Especially from Warsaw and all of that. I miss swimming and I love the sport. I've had a couple of issues with seeing pictures of like the first swim meet, because that was always just the biggest thing. It's like, oh, the first swim meet. It's always the best feeling, is going into the first swim meet and doing well. It's definitely hard to go to a school that you really want to go to and realize the sport you love wasn't there. So even if I saw the sport coming into it, came here, I know that the opportunity that it was there would give me a great feeling, because it was actually here. Today I've explained my reasoning for why Grace is the perfect spot for a swim team. I've told you of other colleges very similar to ours that have started a swim team, and explained why having a swim team is so important. As a person, I'm standing here explaining my passion for swimming to people who have other passions. I don't expect you to do much about the situation, but to understand how it may feel wishing that you could do your passion and that you dedicated most of your life to again.
Alright, so over fall break, I had the opportunity to attend a party for my friend's 21st birthday. Knowing that there was going to be alcohol, I chose not to attend. I chose this for a couple of reasons. One being because I'm underage, and 2 because I'm uncomfortable with the idea of being around alcohol. I was blessed with with the opportunity of growing up with parents that taught me at an early age right from wrong, and to stick with my values and to not change my opinions based on other people that I'm surrounded with. Um, so whether it is your own younger siblings or an individual that you have had the chance to converse with, we have all had the opportunity to shape the way that the younger generation thinks, acts, and feels. So most of my information will come from my story and experiences that I've had, an interview that I conducted with one of my good friends, and the Bible. So today I'm going to talk to you on why we need to focus on shaping the lives of the younger generation by setting a good example for them to follow, showing them how they should act by being chivalrous as well as respectful, and showing them what it looks like to live their life for Christ. In setting a solid example for the younger generation, this is a crucial thing that we need to look at. They are very impressionable. They will imitate our actions. Children are great imitators, so we need to give them something great to imitate. Whether it's something that we say or something that we do, they will look to us as an example because we are so close in age to them. They will repeat our phrases. They try to think the same way because they think that we're cool and they want to be just like us. So we need to be conscientious of what we do with who we are surrounded by, and analyze what we are saying depending on the group of people we are surrounded with. I know at a particular practice, I was coaching my brother's basketball team, and I overheard a conversation before the practice started about normal middle school boys talking about girls and who they liked. And I heard one of the boys say, "Oh, this girl is so hot, I would totally date her." And in the back of my mind, I thought, wow, that's not the word that I would choose to describe a woman. But being at their age, they don't know the right way to talk about them. So being an example for them and showing them what it's like to describe someone of a different gender was something that I took upon myself to go up and talk to them about. So there's an age difference between the younger generation and us, and so we're closer in age to them, so they think that we're cool, so they want to be like us, because who wants to be like their parents when they're 12 or 13 years old? I know when I was in middle school, I idolized high school athletes. The high school athletes around me, I wanted to be just like them. I would be in my driveway shooting baskets and pretending that I was the point guard on the varsity basketball team, driving to the basket, getting fouled, pretending I was the announcer, calling out his name, because I admired the things that he did on the court. His hard work, his ability to persevere through things. But the examples that I was looking up to were not necessarily the greatest examples off of the playing surface. So this is why teaching the younger generation about chivalry and respect is so important. Chivalry, or being chivalrous, is not to be confused with knighthood in medieval times, is defined by dictionary.com as having the qualities of chivalry as courage, courtesy, and loyalty. Ephesians 5:25 states, "Husbands, love your wives as Christ has loved the church and gave himself up for her." So some acts of chivalry could include opening the door for a woman, pulling out a chair for a woman, or treating a woman with respect. Now this is generally pointed towards men, but to the ladies in the room, don't think that I've forgotten about you. Look for a guy that has these qualities. Now I'm not saying that he has to have these qualities in order to be a good man, but if he has these qualities, he'll know how to treat you with respect and show you what Christ's love is through him and loving you as well. So if you are treated with chivalry, then you can know what to look for and explain this to younger women that you know. So if you are blessed to have kids, you can teach them what it means to be a gentleman and to be a lady. Why I think this way is because my dad set a great example for me at a young age and still today. He taught me how to hold a professional conversation by keeping eye contact with my employer or someone of higher importance, how to properly shake a hand, whether that be a male or a female, and he taught me about chivalry. He made sure that I looked for positive influences in my life and that I knew if I was going to do something that if there were consequences for an action that I had to face them. My dad is a positive influence in my life in many aspects, especially living for Christ. So showing the younger generation what it looks like to live their lives for Christ, how we love and treat other people in our everyday life is crucial. If we walk around with a slothful meaning and just not acceptable to anybody, what is that going to show the people around us, the people that look up to us? It's not going to show them what we need to show them, which is Christ's love through us. Looking at our enemies, they're people that we do not like, how we treat them, because they are people too, and they need to know the gospel. And even if we are mad at them for some reason, we have to give that up, because there is a greater purpose for us. Also looking at the people that are not as well off as us, or people that are better off than us, treating them with the same respect and due diligence that we would like to be treated with, because we are people as well, and just because we have things or we don't have things doesn't make us better or worse than someone. So we can also disciple the younger generation, finding ways to teach them about God and His Word. We have to start with our own search for God, looking at our prayer life, in our devotions, what we do with that, and because if we are not disciplined in that area, we can find it hard to reach the younger generation and teach them what they need to know about God. Thirdly, getting involved in the church, showing them what it looks like to spread the word of God. Get involved with the youth group or children's ministries. If we do not teach our children to follow Christ, the world will teach them not to. That's just the world that we live in today. Deuteronomy 6:5-7 states, "You shall love the Lord your God with all your heart, with all your soul, with all your might. And these words that I command you today shall be on your heart. You shall teach them diligently to your children, and shall talk of them when you sit in your house, and when you walk by the way, and when you lie down, and when you rise." Now, many of us know the beginning of this passage, but I found it interesting that I've never heard the part that comes after it. "You shall teach them diligently to your children, and you shall talk of them when you sit in your house, and when you walk by the way, and when you lie down, and when you rise." Now, I've seen a great example of this in my household from my mom and dad, teaching me values and morals that I still have today. So, in conclusion, reviewing some of my main points today, I've expressed why we need to set a good example for the younger generation, why chivalry and respect are important, and why we need to show the younger generation what it means to live our life with Christ. It breaks my heart to see people treat others with disrespect. They are that way because of examples that they have had in their lives to follow. We can be the bearer of God's light. We can be that good example in a child's life. We set the tone for how the next generation acts. Are we going to sit by and observe, or go out and do something about it?
When I say the word mentor, one specific person comes to mind, right? Someone older than yourself, usually who helps you and leads you through rough times. What if I told you you could be that for a kid? My speech is about the organization Big Brothers Big Sisters that I was a part of for 11 years. I was a little for 11 years. Who could put up with me? I'm going to be talking about my experience through the program, and I've also got statistics from the website from Big Brothers Big Sisters of northeastern Indiana. First, I'm going to explain what Big Brothers Big Sisters is and their mission. They're a non-for-profit organization. It's one-on-one matching, so you literally just get paired with one kid. Sometimes it's a couple that gets paired with a child. Lets children know that they are cared about. A lot of time the kids are coming from homes with single parents, not all the time that they're working, or sometimes they're not there. And so the child wants them to have a figure in their life that is positive. Gives children the knowledge of having someone there, and giving parents hope that their children won't go into situations that could possibly harm them physically and emotionally. Now that you know what Big Brothers Big Sisters is and what they stand for, I will give you some statistics. I can never say that word. Big Brothers Big Sisters have, just in northeastern Indiana, over 500 children on the waiting list for a big. Over half of those are males, which breaks my heart, honestly. And getting into the program, the children are 46% less likely to begin using illegal drugs, 27% less likely to begin using alcohol, 52% less likely to skip school, 37% less likely to skip class, unlike me. 33% less likely to hit someone. And now that you know some of the statistics and why the organization exists, I'm going to give you myself as an example on some of the aspects. I was paired with my big Mike since I was 8 years old. And we lasted 11 years, like I said. We just got out of the program when I graduated high school. We were one of the longest, if not the longest, matches that they ever had. My mom wanted me in the program because I didn't have a father figure growing up. He was in jail my entire life, so I didn't know him and I didn't have a male figure to look up to. And through tough times, like I said, the program helped me. My mom's death, he was there, and through my destruction, he didn't know this until sophomore year. I tried to take my own life a few days before he called me, and I was going to plan to do it again, but he called me and asked if I wanted to hang out, and he literally saved my life. And what can come from a mentor? It gives the children hope and prepares them for the life ahead. Gives them the knowledge of, like I said, having someone there, having a figure to look up to is what pretty much the definition of a mentor is. Someone to look up to want to be like. I'm sorry. I've gone through what Big Brothers Big Sisters is and why they do what they do and express my personal experience in the program. At the beginning, my goal was to persuade you to get into the big program, but now I challenge you. I challenge you to get more information and get into the program. What literally saved my life, Big Brothers Big Sisters. And if you want information, just hit me up. I can get you more information about it.